Hello, a very warm welcome along to Sportsbet TV with me, Paul Alster, back with you to look ahead to another great weekend's racing. Indeed, it is Saturday, the 11th of December, just 2 weeks before Christmas, that we're going to focus on, and some really good action across Cheltenham and Doncaster, where there's high quality handicap and graded action at both courses. Now, I'll have a total of 4 selections for you, all at decent prices. If you're joining us for the first time, please press the subscribe button just below this screen. Regular followers know the format by now. It's been a fairly quiet period for us over the last month or so. There's no two ways about it. Last week, a little bit better, still not hitting the target. Always going to happen when you're tipping at the kind of decent odds that I do. Not one of those to be putting up, you know, short prices, odds on all those, and then crowing about what a great winner it was at 1 to 3. Anyway, last week, the one that did show a profit was Achilles. I hope you were on at the 16 to 1 advised each way. 5 places, 6 places indeed, were paid by many firms. And Achilles went very well for a long way in the Beecher Chase, just getting tired, going down towards the final fence and eventually finishing 5th. Backed off the board, 16 to 1 was recommended. He went off 13 to 2. So I hope you were on at the early price there. Now, also at Aintree, Ballyandy did show a revival, as I anticipated, off a much lower mark. He was recommended at 25 to 1, eventually went off down at 11 to 1. So there was money for him. Whether it had anything to do with my thoughts or not, who knows? But anyway, he ran well, but just ran out of puff in the closing stages for the each way money. The 2 disappointments were Christmas in April, who just didn't come to the party at all. That Sandown was eventually pulled up in the staying chase, the London National. And over in Ireland, surprisingly, the name escapes me, did not run to form. A very rare below par performance from him over at Navan. But as I say, it's all about swings and roundabouts, and we do look at this over the course of a year. And before we get through to Christmas, we'll be looking back at 2021 on what has been a very profitable, successful, and tremendously exciting year on so many occasions, with some really big winners. If you're interested in horses more towards the 4 of the market, then over the last few months, I've been tipping at freebets.com. Check out their YouTube channel at freebets.com. And I've tipped 8 winners from my last 14 runners, and all at fair prices as well. So things are going really great there. And you might want to maybe add one in amongst the selections I'm about to offer you now here at Sportsbet. Well, let me take you first to Cheltenham, because it is a great day down at the Prestbury track. And the first race I'm interested in is the 1:15. This is a pretty hot 2-mile handicap chase. The advance going is forecast good to soft. There are 8 runners making each way punting, a definite option. And the one that is head of the market at the time of this recording on Friday lunchtime is the Gary Moore trained improving chaser, Editor Dugit, who's won 3 of his last 4, and he unseated rider at Ascot in amongst those on his reappearance. So essentially he's won his last 3 completed chases. He beat Stolen Silver and Neck over course and distance in November, gone up £7. Whether that's enough to stop him, we're going to find out at 1:15 on Saturday, but I don't think 11 to 4 or thereabouts is a particularly appealing price. Now, a horse that's also done well this season is a Moolah Gold for Dan Skelton. You may recall that astonishing win of his coming from out of the clouds to get up and score at Ascot earlier in the term. And then he ran well again there, subsequently only just beaten. He's gradually going up the weights, and he's run well at this track as well. So not one to take too lightly, a Moolah Gold. Now, Venetia Williams has had her horses in great form, of course, and she's got one here called Frero Babu, who has form with the front 2 in the race from his various outings in 2021. He could well improve this horse to go very close. And another one of interest, another lady trainer here, Jenny Candlish, trains a horse called Cheddleton, who was a good 2-length third on its reappearance. And no doubt at all that that Carlisle run could have really brought it on, will have brought it on there. So another one to consider. But having given this a bit of thought, I'm going here with one of the older horses here, DORAN, trained by Tom George. and the mount of Jonathan Burke. And Bundoran, a 10-year-old, he's going to turn 11, as all horses do. They age a year on January the 1st, bit like the old license plates for cars. And he's been a wonderful servant, a real standard bearer for Tom George, who tends to keep his horses in really good form over season after season. He's very good at keeping his horses sweet. And this horse in particular has run very well at Cheltenham over the years. He was second in the Grand Annual Chase at the 2019 festival. He went on to finish third to Politologue in the Champion Chase of 2020 when he was rated 160. So he's a horse who's operated at a very high level for a long time. He previous to that won the Desert Orchid Chase, a Grade 2 at Kempton at the Christmas festival that season. But it has to be said that this year he has struggled, maybe not quite the force of old, and he's been off 6 months prior to a wind surgery. Now, he's had the wind surgery, and it did appear that on the evidence of his third to Editor du JETT last time out, that he could still have enough ability to make his presence very much felt here. He got tired in the closing stages. His first run for 6 months was beaten 10 lengths, but just check this out yourself. You'll see that he's now 15 pounds. That's over a stone better off for 10 lengths, and the run should have brought him on. So bearing that in mind, the fact that he's running off 137, having competed in the 2020 Champion Chase off 160 rating, then I think Bundoran has a really sporting chance to bounce back at a track that does seem to bring out the best in him. And at 10 to 1 each way with most firms, and that's for 3 places, he's going to be my first choice on Saturday at Cheltenham in the 1:15, and that is Bundoran for Tom George. Now, the race after that is the 1:50 at Cheltenham. It's the £130,000 Racing Post Gold Cup handicap chase, 2.5 miles. It's the second leg of the sort of late autumn into winter double at Cheltenham. The first leg having been the Paddy Power Gold Cup in November, which was won by Midnight Shadow, who will take his chance again. Lalo was having his first run for the Paul Nicholls stable, and having sort of rather lost his way for previous connections, when staying on really well last month in the Paddy Power to finish third. He's gone up £2 for that. He's the general 9-2 favourite, and who knows, there could be more to come with the champion trainer. I think most people would anticipate probably able to get a little bit more out of him than previous connections. We shall see. Now, fourth in the race in the Paddy Power was Dostal Phil, trained by Philip Hobbs. He was another one keeping on well in the closing stage. He's better for the run, no doubt about it. He's running in the green and gold of J.P. McManus, and he's gone up £1. He won't be far away either. A horse I very nearly tipped here is Silver Hallmark for Evan Williams. This is a horse I really do like. He's an exciting prospect for me, you know. He won a Grade 2 novice chase at Haydock in January, and was having his first run since, when he faded going towards the last in a very hot listed chase at Carlisle, which was won by Fiddler on the Roof, who of course went on to finish second in the old Hennessy the Ladbroke chase that it is as it is now. And Ahoy Senor, who was pretty much upsides Silver Hallmark when they're checking out and seating rider at the second last, has gone on to absolutely bolt up in a very hot race at Newbury since. And that Carlisle form, I think, is one of the hottest pieces of form around. So Silver Hallmark, a danger to all, despite his relative lack of experience over fences. I think he's one to watch out for. Now, back at the Paddy Power last month, you may remember Cool Cody crashing out 2 out and still just in front. Would he have won? I don't think so, but he was going to run a very, very good race, no doubt about it. He's been put up £2, but even though he's run lots of good races at Cheltenham, is he going to be able to bounce back? Now, amongst the rest, Beats Town for the Skelton, very unexposed, lightly raced sort, third in an entry novices handicap chase last season, and Faranet for Venetia Williams and Rachel Blackmore, an interesting combination. He was impressive when winning at Sandown in March in a listed handicap chase. He's gone up £8, but still could easily be the right side of the handicapper. As always, this race, this big Cheltenham handicap at the December meeting, is a red-hot event. But despite all the above, I'm nailing my colours to the mast of the Paddy Power winner. I think he can do the double. Midnight Shadow, trained at Bingley up there on the hills by Sue Smith, and with her Grand National winning jockey Ryan Mania on board. I think Midnight Shadow could very easily uphold the form of the Paddy Power. Now, he was left in front to out in the Paddy Power last month, which was probably earlier than he would have liked. He was still going very powerfully, went down towards the last with a 3 or 4 length lead, absolutely crashed through the last. Take a look at it, you'll see it for yourself. A lot of horses might have come down, but he managed to gather himself together, and that must have taken some of the stuffing out of him, but he still had enough about him to stay on well and defeat Protectorat. Now, Protectorat, of course, stepped up in trip just last week at Aintree and absolutely murdered Native River in the Many Clouds Chase. So the form really could not be hotter. And I think Midnight Shadow would have probably won 5 lengths if he hadn't have crashed through the final fence. And Midnight Shadow is a horse who loves this track. He really does. He was second in this very race last year to the Irish raider Chatham Street Lad. You may well remember Michael Winters, the trainer of that one, rolling around in the mud famously afterwards in the ITV interview, which was one of the great racing moments of last year. He's only £6 higher now, despite having won the Paddy Power last month. Remember, he's also won the Grade 2 Dipper Novices Chase at the track, and he won the Grade 2 Relkeel Hurdle at Cheltenham as well. Now, another point to bear in mind is that Sue Smith made no secret of the fact that she was very seriously considering letting him run in the King George at Kempton on Boxing Day. And I think she's given it a lot of thought and eventually decided she prefers to tackle this hot handicap for now. Who knows, if he does win, maybe she will still go to Kempton in 2 weeks' time, although that might come too soon. But the other thing to remember as well is that it is not beyond the bounds of possibility for horses to win the 2 big late autumn, early winter handicaps at Cheltenham. And cast your mind back, if you're old enough, to Pegwell Bay, who did the double for Tim Forster back in the day. Senor El Bertruti, do you remember him? That galloping grey, he did the double, the Paddy Power, and then this race. And more recently, in maybe about 12 years ago, for John Joe O'Neill, Exotic Dancer for Sir Robert Ogden, also did the double, the Paddy Power Gold Cup and this race. So it can be done, the old horses for courses. And I think that at 8 to 1 each way, and at the time of this recording, Betfred are offering 5 places. I think that's a fair price. Wouldn't surprise me to see Midnight Shadow drift, because I think there will be money for quite a few of those who finish behind him and are a little bit better off at the weight. So you may well get bigger. But for me, it's going to be a Yorkshire win, all being well, for Midnight Shadow, Sue Smith and Ryan Mania in the Racing Post Gold Cup at Cheltenham, the 150. 2 more selections for you, and these 2 are both at Doncaster. We go to Townmore first for the 240, the Grade 2 Summit Juvenile Hurdle over 2 miles. Once again, good to soft ground, 8 runners, a less testing track, of course, than Cheltenham. Now, in this very race over the last 7 years, Paul Nicholls has won 3 of the last 7 renewals, and his big rival Nicky Henderson has won 2 of the last 7. They're both represented. I'll come to that in a minute. But Night Salute is the one most people are anticipating will be favourite for the red-hot informed Milton Harris. Horse has done really well since going hurdling. He's won all 3, including the Grade 2 Triumph Trial Juvenile Hurdle at Cheltenham, where he beat Magistrata, who was finishing 4th, run very well that day. But Night Salute is really tough horse, and he's not going to go down with a fight. Magistrato is trained by Paul Nicholls and reopposes, a sign that Paul thinks he can probably turn the form around. And this ex-French horse is open to improvement after just the 3 runs. Now, the one I think that is probably going to go off favourite here, I know Night Salute will be very popular, but Porticello is the one I think is probably going to go off favourite for Gary Moore, who has a lot of strength and depth in the juvenile departments. And this one beat Magistrato in a race in France when they were both trained in France at Auteuil there in Paris. He then went on to win on his UK debut. They put him straight into a listed hurdle at Wetherby, and he beat a Milton Harris trained runner actually called Genuflex. So Milton should have quite a good form line here to Porticello. So some really complex form lines to try and untangle here. And then what about Nicky Henderson? As I said, he's won 2 of the last 7 renewals of this race. He's got a horse who looked really, really exciting, winning his first 2 hurdles, Impulsive One. He won at Plumpton and then at Huntingdon, and then he was beaten by Night Salute at Kempton. So again, the form lines are all tangled up. Now, he has had a wind operation since, and that suggests that maybe his breathing was problematic at Kempton when he was beaten by Night Salute. I think he may well reverse the form. But the horse for me in this race, who I think is too big a prize, is called Too Friendly, and is trained by Dan Skelton and the mount of his sister-in-law, Bridget Andrews, who of course is married to Dan's brother, Harry. Now, this horse was rated 88 on the flat for George Scott, and he won at Doncaster in a maiden over 1.25 miles. He then went on to finish 6th in the listed Blue Ribbon Derby trial at the Epsom April meeting, so a pretty useful sort on the flat. Now, he won on his debut for the Skeltons over jumps, winning at Stratford. And then he travelled well in what were very difficult conditions at Newcastle in a snowstorm 2 weeks ago. He went on to beat a useful horse called Twilight Twist of Alan King's by nearly 5 lengths. Twilight Twist made a hash of the last, but Too Friendly was travelling well as he joined him at the last, and probably would have won anyway. But he's a horse who I think is going the right way. He's with the right connections, and he just looks each way value here at 7-1 at the time of this recording with Bet365. I know some firms are already going 6, so you may have to hurry as soon as you see this recording to try and get the value. I just think this horse has real potential, and his form lines not tied in with all the others who are all very closely matched. I think he could have been overlooked, that Newcastle form, and for me, Too Friendly is the one at Doncaster in the 240. And then to my final selection, well, Doncaster 3:15, a 3-mile handicap chase. Just the 7 runners here. It is good to soft ground forecast, as I mentioned. Now, there's a really decent handicap chaser here called 2 for Gold. It's trained by Kim Bailey, who's having a good run. And of course, his first flow won the Peterborough Chase last weekend. He's forecast a 7-4 chance here, 2 for Gold, on his seasonal reappearance. He beat ASO at Warwick last season in February. Then he was third to Cloth Cap in a good listed handicap chase, and went on to unseat his rider on his final start last term in the Topham Trophy over the Grand National Fences. We'll forgive him that. It's his first run back. He's only £1 higher than his last winning mark, so likely to have done plenty of work, but no great value there at 7-4. Alan King, who is another trainer going really well. His Edward Stone was a particularly impressive winner at Sandown last week in the Grade 1. He's got a horse called Feedux, who was a good third to Strictly a Dancer in a solid Haydock and Staying handicap chase 3 weeks ago. That should have got him really fit, and he's only gone up £1. And then you've got an enigmatic horse called Cato Rico for Tom Gretton, who doesn't race too often. He was forced to call Coldy in last year's Paddy Power Gold Cup, steaming up the hill from a long way back, over 2.5 miles. And then his only other run was when pulled up in the Topham Trophy. He's £4 lower than his Paddy Power run last year. So after an absence of 8 months plus, he's a horse that goes well fresh and can't be completely ruled out. But my choice here is a horse making his debut for New Stable. He's called JETT, and he's trained by Ollie Murphy, who's having a wonderful season. And Sam Whaley-Cohen, one of the very top amateur riders, is riding the horse who runs in the colours of his father, Robert. Now, Jed has been trained most of his life by Jesse Harrington in Ireland. He's been a great servant to Jesse, and he's, of course, a half-brother to the champion hurdler Jeski. He's won 5 races in his own right. He was last successful when beating Alpha Dezebo in a Grade 3 at Punchestown just over 2 years ago. But you probably don't have to cast your mind back too far to remember Jet, because think about the Grand National in April, where he put up a superb round of jumping, bowling along out there in front, still leading as they crossed the Melling Road the final time, and then he ran out of gas over the extended 4¼ miles. It was just too far for him. He began to falter going towards the second last when he was headed by Minella Times and Rachel Blackmore. He kept going and he finished 8th, but he just put up a marvellous performance to show there's a lot of life in the old boy yet. And I think they've just moved him to Ollie Murphy just to try something new with him. It can often work the oracle. And for me, surprisingly, dropped, he's £5 lower than his Grand National mark. So he's down to 145. He has run some fair races going well fresh in the past. And the thing that's really persuaded me to recommend him to you is that even though there are only 7 runners, so normally just 2 places, William Hill are offering 3 places on this race, and they're offering 15-2. So I think we're going to see JETT bowl along. He's not the only confirmed front runner in the race. So I expect Samuel Cohen won't want to get into a fight about the lead, but he'll always be prominent. So 15-2 each way. JETT at Doncaster in the 3:15, my 4th and final selection for 3 places on Saturday at Doncaster. Some tremendous racing, wonderful jump racing at Cheltenham and Doncaster this weekend. Remember, if you're looking for slightly shorter odds towards the head of the market, check me out at freebets.com, where I've been in wonderful form. But for now, for this weekend, just the fortnight to Christmas, this is me, Paul Alster, signing off. Let's hope we get a real good run for our money with our 4 selections this weekend. And I'll see you same time at Sportsbet next week. Bye-bye for now.